Thank you, Mr. Rao. It's a pleasure to be at the CIA premises here in Delhi, in Gurgaon more specifically, and joining hands with you to talk about something that we at Hexagon Consulting do all the time, which is customer experience management, helping our clients and organizations measure, diagnose, and improve their customer experience. Customer experience management has taken the world by storm over the last few years in particular. A world industries which have been traditionally focusing on the more traditional concepts like quality and quality management and TQM and so on have gone beyond to customer experience management, and it's becoming an area of expertise and execution excellence that is differentiating the winners from the losers and is therefore so very important today. The importance can be evidenced from one angle, which is that in some of the most successful and large organizations, especially at the board level as well as at the C-suite level, um, a new um, C-level exec has started sitting, the CCXO, the Chief Customer Experience Officer. And this is something which is increasingly visible in some of the smartest and the best organizations. This is important not just for service organizations, but relevant and equally important for the manufacturing sector as well. And important not just for B2C organizations, but equally important for B2B organizations. On the screen, you can perhaps see the picture and quote one of the more famous business leaders of today, Jeff Bezos, who, as most of you know, has founded and is running one of the most valuable, one of the largest and smartest companies in the world, Amazon. If you hear and if you read about him in almost every utterance, in every speech, in every opportunity that he is heard speaking, you will always hear him talk about customer experience. In fact, he says that the differentiator on which Amazon scores and is built is on customer experience. Even in India, as some of you may be aware, those of you who follow industry trends, last year in 2016, Amazon India overtook in terms of sales its closest competitor, Flipkart, even though it had entered India significantly after Flipkart started operations. So increasingly, as we will go through this presentation today, I will share with you that increasingly around the world, and not just around the world, but in India as well, in sector after sector, customer experience is the single biggest contributor to organizational success, growth, and profitability. So those of you who are interested in transforming and navigating your organization towards greater success, this webinar should be of some interest to you. Today we will talk about the what, how, and why of customer experience. While most of you at a broad level, I'm sure, understand this, we will dive into some detail and try and understand some of the best practices, some of the salient aspects, what is customer experience, how can it be improved, and so forth. And some of the best practices are from our collaborators, the American Customer Satisfaction Index out of Michigan in US, and the International Customer Service Institute in UK, Dubai, and Singapore, and the expertise of some of our core consulting team, which has got years of expertise and experience in driving customer experience. Customer experience or user experience is the sum total of all the interactions that the customer has with an organization. And the key word here is all. And what that means is all the interactions from the point that the customer is prospecting and looking for a solution to buy a product or a service, to a point where the customer actually purchases it, to a point where the customer is looking for service support or want to exit the relationship. On every aspect of the customer contact, and on all customer contacts, and on all stages of the customer life cycle, and all stages of the product life cycle, the sum total of the interactions is what describes this simple phrase, customer experience. So it's not just customer service, it's all of what I mentioned. And more recently, it also integrates the digital experience, the online experience, but not just the digital and the online experience, but equally the experience on the offline channels as well, with absolutely no exceptions. And meanwhile, as we all know, we are in the midst of rapid change. We are in the midst of steep change of newer and newer technologies and disruptions. And we are seeing this, we are observing this, we are talking about this. But some of you may be aware that last year, this was described by the World Economic Forum as the fourth industrial revolution. The earlier revolutions, like the first revolution was with the introduction of the steam engine, and subsequent were about the introduction of electricity and electric motors and internet and computers and so forth. But the earlier revolutions were because of the induction of one or two specific technologies. The fourth industrial revolution is the induction of multivariate and multiple technologies, and not just technologies. There are changes around technologies on the very way the business and organizations operate. And more importantly, there is also steep change in what the customer wants. The customer needs itself are rapidly changing at a pace never seen before. And so, because of this reason as well, it's critical that organizations realize the importance of customer experience as a tool to not just deliver superior customer experience, but as a tool to tap and listen and understand what really the customer wants. So therefore, in this time of steep change, while there is so much change, the power equation has shifted in favor of the consumer, in favor of the customer. In the traditional organizations, the organization was the king, and what they did was produce a product and sell it and push it to the market, to the customer, and persuade the customer to buy it by a variety of means, advertising, and so forth. The equation has turned the other way around. The customer decides which product it wants, how it wants, in which channel it wants, in what form and shape, and whether the customer now wants a different product. And the pace of change is so rapid that the only way for organizations to survive is to not just drive customer experience, but use this as a tool to understand what the customer needs. And we're going to be talking a bit more on this. And meanwhile, while all of this is going on, there is a huge gap. Now, this is from a Harvard Business Review study, very recent study, March 2017. And they did the study not just in North America, but around the world, including India. From this study, they interviewed CEOs around the world, across organizations, across sectors, manufacturing, services, and so forth. And the essence of the study is that 80% of the CEOs believe that they deliver a good, engaged customer experience. And they also went and spoke to their customers of the very same organizations. And the study revealed that only 8% of their customers believed or agree that they are provided a good customer experience. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we're staring at a huge gap. And this gap is so big between the perception that the organizations have. They believe they're doing a great job, and they sometimes measure their success by sales and brand and so forth. But as we all know, only in the last few years, many brands have fallen by the wayside, and many industries and companies have had to sort of move out of the market, and many of the same and other brands are struggling today. And the reason, folks, in our view, is simply that people are measuring the wrong parameter. They're not measuring customer experience, and they're not measuring it the right way. And we'll talk some more on this. So take a look at some of, please take a look at what some of the others are saying on this subject. ACSI, our collaborators in America, the American Customer Satisfaction Index, who've been measuring customer satisfaction in company after company and sectors across 30 countries around the world. As per their study, customer satisfaction has the highest correlation with earnings and stock returns. 60% of companies view customer experience delivered by contact center as a competitive advantage, is what Deloitte is saying. 89% of companies will compete mainly on customer experience, Gartner. By 2020, not too many years away, the demand for omni-channel, the term omni-channel, ladies and gentlemen, means multi-channel in an integrated manner. Essentially what they're saying is that the demand for a superior and a consistent experience across channels will be so high that customers will demand and expect near perfect execution across channels. Very, very easy to demand, but very difficult for organizations to execute. 87% of customers think that their brands need to put more effort into providing a consistent experience. The key word here, folks, is consistent. And what I said earlier, there's a huge gap between what organizations believe that they're delivering and what customers perceive actually. And therefore, the opportunity to work on this. Right. So I can go on, and if you're interested, you can read a lot more on this subject. But our partners in America, who incidentally in the sister company run a fund which only invests in companies which deliver a high customer satisfaction, and that fund outperforms most other mutual funds in the North American market. Essentially, in this slide, the simple point that is being made is that customer satisfaction leads to not only superior results for the organization, but a superior customer satisfaction also contributes to economic growth and GDP growth. So this slide and this graph is showing a correlation between satisfaction level growth and GDP growth in the US market over the last few quarters. Indian Customer Satisfaction Index, we launched along with our collaborators last year, where we started by studying the satisfaction levels of the banking sector in 2016. We studied the 12 largest banks in India, and we found a very interesting correlation between customer satisfaction levels of these banks and stock performance. So therefore, why is some more on consumer experience, customer experience. So it leads to superior stock performance, increased revenues, referrals, conversions, cross-sell retention, improved business agility, less intensive service requirements, greater customer loyalty, and therefore less cost of customer acquisition, and so forth. And in India as well, I mean, this is obviously an incomplete list, and but whatever we could what we observe are some examples of some great companies where superior customer satisfaction is contributing to superior market share and profitability and so forth. So if you reflect a bit on this and you look around in whichever sector you are in, or as a consumer, if you were to look around and think about this, you'll probably see of all the factors, there's one factor which is customer experience. You will always see a high correlation between organization success and customer experience. Having said that, most Indian organizations do not realize this sufficiently and spend a lot more effort and money on some other aspects like product quality, which are of course important, but not the only thing, or they spend millions on marketing and brand building and on price discounts and so forth. But not if some of that or a fraction of that were to be spent on managing customer experience across, the results are likely to be, I would argue, far superior. So what is customer experience management? Let's try and understand some of that. It's like I said earlier, it's end-to-end from the prospect stage to the end of the customer life cycle with the organization, to across the product life cycle, across all stages and all customer contact channels. So it's not just the product experience. That's very important to understand. It's the sum total of the experience, not only after you acquired the product, but even from the time when the customer has started prospecting and looking for a solution for the problem that he or she is trying to solve. And then go on to other aspects like speed, whether the product is available on a self-service basis, very important today. And then with the millennial generation emerging, the emergence of what is described in this sector as the I want it now customer. So even if you have a great product, but you can't deliver it now, you have a problem that needs to be, and then omni-channel smoothness is expected. And the key phrase here is frictionless. So what we need to do is to reflect on the word frictionless and try to figure out how, as an organization, can we deliver frictionless customer experience across channels and so forth. And then, like I said, the term end-to-end and frictionless needs to be anchored on all aspects of the organization, from not just its products and services, but to its premises. By premises, we mean all ports of delivery of the product. What that means is whether you're delivering the product online, or you're delivering the product in a brick and mortar store, or through your distributor and dealer channels, or through any other means, or the support that you're providing to the customer across all channels, digital and non-digital, all of them are covered in premises. And then the integration of these with the processes and the right people practices and the right metrics and the right measures, right? So the integration of all of this and managing expectations of the customer at every stage of engagement
is key to delivering a superior customer experience, and reduction of the customer effort and cost of sales and support, right? Now, what is the end-to-end customer-anchored approach? It means a lot of things, but in this slide, we're trying to share with you some of the key elements. So let me share a couple of stories with you on this. The empowered frontline. I have a friend who works with Amazon India, and he shared with me recently, only last week, that the frontline agent who is supporting customers on customer service or taking a call is so empowered that that frontline customer service or customer order taker is empowered to remove a product from the Amazon website without checking with anyone. So the frontline and the industry uses the term agent, not a very, I would say, respectful word, but they are in organizations like Amazon, one of the most important, the most powerful people vis-a-vis the customer. And then, in addition to that, it comes to that is from a managing this are things like metrics and processes which matter. Customer feedback, is so important. Customer feedback is conventionally understood in most organizations as a means of complaint handling or getting some survey feedback on whether they like the product, or getting the product rated on a 1 to 5 kind of scale. While all of those things are important, but the term is far more powerful and far more inclusive. Customer feedback is a strategic tool for organizations today. They use customer feedback to improve the product, to develop the product, and to improve their processes, and to improve their silos and their operations. So customer feedback, till now, I think the big buzzword in industry was quality, Lean Six Sigma. So all those great practices, which we have developed over the last 2-3 decades. Customer feedback, I would argue, ladies and gentlemen, is the simplest and the smartest way to improve your organization. All we need to do is listen to feedback, request, urge, plead with your customers to give you feedback, and it can transform your organization. How is it that organizations, like, let me take another example or two, like Samsung, let's take the cell phone industry. They're coming up with new models every 3 months, every 6 months. They're not going through elaborate product redesign and design cycles. The only thing they do is tap into customer feedback and use that feedback to develop the next product. And then, like, the other aspect is customer focused leadership in operations. Customer experience is not a mid-tier function. It's a top of the house function. It's the function that the board, the CEO, and the of every organization needs to see as a part of their responsibility. It's not a support function. It's a line function. For companies like Amazon, like I said earlier, the only thing that Jeff talks about is customer experience. And therefore, understanding the customer needs and reorganizing your organization structure as well around the customer. The traditional organizational structure of sales, marketing, manufacturing, and service support is ancient. It's a fossil. The organizational structure, the way the organization needs to be operated, needs to be completely transformed for an organization to be truly customer anchored, and to be in a position to deliver a customer experience. And that's what the smartest organizations around the world are doing. And we in India, while we have great strengths, and of course we are an ambitious country, and we want to, and we've done, we've really improved in the last 2 3 decades, but we all are aware that we need to improve. And some of the things that come in the way are, first of all, realization that this is so important, and two, are we willing to invest in this? Are we willing to bring in a chief customer experience officer at the board level? Or do we see customer experience as a side support uh, for manufacturing and so on? Because customer experience, the chief customer experience officer should have the ability and the power and the strength to question not just manufacturing at a product level, but marketing and support and every aspect of the organization. In a truly customer-centric organization, no one is exempt, and everyone has to contribute to the customer experience. Even the guard outside is a part of the customer experience, who's meeting a customer walking in. Even finance and accounts, who may be billing the customer, has to play a role in ensuring that the customer experience to a customer when the bill goes is simple, smart, frictionless. And so there are a lot of things that need to be fixed, but fundamentally the organizational silos come in the way of a superior and a frictionless customer experience. You and me all know as consumers how uh, the salesperson on the other side or the service support person says, oh, I this needs to be done by another department. And a customer centric organization, no one is allowed to talk like that. And that's how this is one of the examples I'm giving on what organizations need to do to become more customer centric. And once you transform yourself, it fuels growth. It transforms customer relationships. It transforms customer advocacy. So instead of spending millions on advertising, um, if customer advocates are leaving testimonials on social media and leaving wow remarks about their experience, that's far more powerful today than millions of hoardings and big advertising budgets. So so therefore the question is, oh yeah, this sounds great, but how does one go about it? This is of course a very deep and a comprehensive subject and requires a lot of effort, a lot of re-execution and restructuring and strengthening of different aspects of the organization. But we can share with you some high-level thoughts at this stage, given the time available. Customer journey mapping is taking the world by storm. It's looking at how the customer is engaging with the organization from the customer's eyes, not from the organization eyes. So, for example, if you're a retail store, the customer experience is not just about the experience inside the store, but also about the experience at the checkout counter or experience when the customer is coming in or driving in to park a vehicle to reach the store and things like that. And of course, across sectors, there are different aspects. And this is being described in the business world, in the MBA schools, as design thinking and so forth. And it's a very simple, but a very important cross-functional, cross-silo tool to strengthen the customer journey and to improve the customer journey. And then number of other, with that, which is often the first step, we have to move to measuring the customer experience. And the measurement of customer experience needs, because if you have a car and you don't have a dashboard which tells you how fast the car is going, don't have a speedometer for that, then obviously you don't know how fast the car is going. Similarly, customer experience needs to be formally measured on a continuous basis at a sufficient level of periodicity, so and with the right level of objectivity Often this requires external measurement, and there are techniques, there's a science and art around the customer experience measurement, and that needs to be done. And then it needs to be done at all touch points. It needs to be done at all stages of the customer and the product life cycle and so forth. And then with those measures, the right metrics have to be introduced across departments, in the departments, so that people stop thinking in their respective silos in the respective departments. And then reward and recognition mechanisms have to be introduced around customer experience metrics. So the first step, therefore, is the right measure. And like I said earlier, customer feedback is a strategic tool. It's as strategic as technology. Just as tracking new technology is important for all of us, regardless of the sector, important to track new technology and introduce new technology, I would argue obtaining customer feedback, open customer feedback, which is not just a rating, it's open feedback, including criticism, complaints. Organizations need to be thankful if a customer has complained, because then you have a customer who's engaged. And then with that complaint, you can do something about improving the product, the process, right? So feedback is critical for new product development, for product improvement, and for operations improvement. And therefore, we find that organizational-wide, end-to-end customer-anchored approach of operations make companies move away from silos or help them bridge the silos, integrate across channels and touch points, and also drive innovation and so forth. And like I said, there is a way to do it. There are structures to do it. We have in Hexagon Consulting formal structures to diagnose and improve organizations, and there are mechanisms to do this, right? And therefore, a customer-centric design process. So there's a process to make the organization customer-centric, right? So a customer-centric process ensures breaking down of silos, ensures obtaining feedback to improve, and also leverages technology. So technology is important, but not the end. There's a lot of talk today of introducing the right technology, which is obviously important, but it is, in our view, the integration of people, process, and technology, which is where the solution lies. So just as organizations are spending a lot on technology, it's important to spend in integrating the newer technology with the right processes, with the right customer measures, and the improvement opportunities that we get from the customer feedback, and then integrating all of this into the right solution. And customer journey mapping, etc., are some of the tools we use to help organizations. Yeah, and there are no shortcuts. So if you don't satisfy customer, and today the customer is very fickle, is a lot less patient. We have a new generation, and the newer generations are going to be even more fickle. And therefore, as long as repeat business is important, buyers have other options, it's important that customer experience be given attention to. So what winners do is manage customer relationships and customer experience, and all the stuff that we spoke about, right? And what losers do is buy customer loyalty with price incentive, very common in India, especially. And we need to realize that just by cutting price, many organizations are falling by the wayside. Not only are they losing on margin, but they are not necessarily delivering they're just focusing on cost cutting and not on customer experience. And therefore, they often confuse the symptoms with the causes. And by not focusing on this and all the measures and all the stuff that we spoke about, lose out often. Yeah. So that's thank you, folks, for being so patient on this session. Hopefully, you found this of use, and we can take some questions. There are a few.